last one we talked about key ingredient to growing or expanding a service-based business. And again, we're kind of given the stipulation that you've been in business for a little while, your financials look good, your momentum's there. Now we want to transfer that idea to retail.
All right.
Right. So
we're customer facing, we're in their eyes.
That's right. They're walking in your door. And I'll just kind of like get us started. And I think this could apply to retail or service, but it came to me in the last episode was that I think if business owners were to understand how to, and also apply a method of thinking like an investor more often, that their business would, the actions they take in their business would be much more profitable. And what I mean by that is I've done this from time to time where I'll do an exercise on, okay, if I'm an investor, how am I looking at this business? And I'm taking all the emotion off of it. I'm taking all of my role off of it, all of that.
Okay.
And I'm just coming in, black and white, objectively saying, okay, who are your customers? What's your unique selling point or competitive advantage in the market? What do your systems look like? How are you managing your cash flow? Like, I'm going to put money in this company. So I want to make sure I get a return.
Yeah.
So
that knocks out so many small businesses that can't provide anything.
It does. It does. And I think it's been for me too. Even just doing it with myself, it's been an eye opener because it's like, wow, I'm really just sort of operating here. I'm really just sort of not even operating. I'm just really sort of like going through the motions. And I need to look at this a different way if I'm actually going to grow this thing. And so I think if this, again, retail or service, but if they were to take that mentality, it would really change things for them.
There's a different hat you have to put on as well as, okay, you started a company in the first few years. Now you've got something.
That's right.
It's able to profit. And now, you want to be able to build it to where, okay, you truly get great profit. You're able to have it operate without you, but maybe you're still the lead.
Yes.
But, for it to have ultimate value, somewhere down the road, you can always be that image of that company, but you need to be able to not be as involved in every day to day.
Yes.
For the ultimate price, if that's your intention years down the road.
Right. And I'm saying, even if it's not your intention to sell, even if it's not your intention to step out of the company and have someone else run it, so it's more favorably an asset to invest in, it's still good to think that way because you can always apply your emotion back to whatever it is that you're selling and the customers you serve and the role that you play. You can always do that. But if you're operating your business objectively like that, to that standard, then you are going to grow a more profitable company, which is only going to benefit you. Even if you want to be in it more than an investor would want you to be, or you don't want to sell. I think that mentality is very helpful for business owners to adopt.
Yes.
So that kind of goes to a lot of things we were saying before. It's that if you're going to go to, like we said on the service-based one, going to go back to your current customers and say, what did we do for you? How do we apply that in context, as call it case study to prospects so they can see that we have bona fide services, we produce bona fide benefits. I think it gets you thinking more like a business owner and someone who is, the momentum is there to expand versus, okay, I'm doing a lot of things, same things myself. And we have these big contracts maybe that are coming in, or maybe we have on the retail side, we have more traffic coming in for some reason. Maybe they're building more homes. It's external. Maybe we did some marketing. It worked, it was internal. But you're not going to be able to add more hours ultimately to your week and succeed. So you have to look at, and that's where, if you have a key ingredient, if not, I can give one.
Let's hear your key ingredient.
It's systems.
Retail. Okay.
Yeah. I think if you're looking to grow, expand, you got to have systems because you probably are already bumping up against that at this stage. That
feels is good because, it's a bank and, the proliferation over the last few years of people acting like banks, but are basically, an aggregator for a bank. That's been coming out lately. A lot of banking as a service or, crypto related companies and policy procedures. So now whenever they come to us and say, hey, either we want to partner into this, the first thing I ask for are their processes on their onboarding of customers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly surprised. And these are companies that have raised so much more money than, we've raised in 100 years.
Yes. Yes.
And I am blown away at the crap.
Yeah.
So
it's a different kind of investor too that's putting money to this
so
business.
It's so important to have that process laid down.
Yes.
And so somebody can step in and do it.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's, I think, the most important thing at this stage. You've gotten in, you've opened up your shop, you've figured it out, or you bought a shop and you've come in and fixed some things. But I think it's the most key thing to look at the next stage of growth, whatever that looks like for you, because it lifts all the different levers. It helps your employees have better morale because now they know their more job description is more
clear. Get their feedback too.
You get feedback more clearly because they can say, okay, you told me to do this, I did this, this is what happened. Instead of, you told me to do this, now you're telling me to do it a different way. Now you're telling me to do it a different way. Why don't you just do it? Inventory can be so much more controlled because you have a system to control it.
Correct.
All your point of sale software and vendors and suppliers, on and on.
If you're selling perishable goods, that's where the inventory really comes in handy. Specific ordering timeframes.
Yes.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Yep. So all of that, if I were in the shoes of that owner and we were looking to expand because we have this influx of new cash and customers, whatever that looks like, I would do the hard work of saying, okay, I'm going to take a step back before we take 3 steps forward and try to spend 3 months to put systems in.
Over the last, I don't know, a few weeks, months, that has really hit home with me is it's probably about 6 or 7 years ago where we turned the bank upside down and redid every policy and procedure.
Yeah.
And that was only 7 years ago. I'm ready to do it again this year.
Yeah.
Because I know there's more efficiencies and also.
Well, you've grown.
We've grown and the employee base too. Some have changed and now we've got such wonderful talent. I need to go back to them. Okay.
And you got different specialties.
Now you've spent time with these policy procedures.
Right.
Where do you see enhancements? What is redundant?
That's right.
What are we doing 3 times when we only need to do it once?
Yeah.
Get their feedback, go through it. And so that's my real goal this year is really just to, again, and it may not be a complete overhaul or it could be once you get in there and look at every policy, every procedure, every step that you're doing and see where you can expedite and proceed. And ultimately that is just going to benefit our existing customers,
everybody
mostly.
Yep.
And then from there, you're able to grow.
That's right. And it could be that you, out of all of that work, you find one thing that changes the course of your business because you changed that one thing. And when you've done it before, I know.
And when you're an established business, you can't afford to screw up like everyone else because you've already built up, hopefully, integrity. You've built up, all this backbone that you had. So, once you have something, the fear of loss, erodes it so much quicker. I mean, if you're a startup, you have great. You can blaze through there. Okay, you have to have sales. We figure it out as you go. But especially, us, you're in a regulated industry, that adds to it.
Sure.
Now, you can't grow with that already having stuff in place.
Right.
You don't.
That's right.
You're jeopardizing your capital by doing that.
Yep.
And the banks that went under last year, that's ultimately what happened. They grew without the systems and procedures in place prior to their growth.
That's right. And how do you do it? I think that if you're not a systems type person, and that's maybe how you got to where you are But
if you're the owner, you need to, forget about it.
Well, but you might have someone on your team that is. And they might just be the person
I wasn't necessarily systems, but you know what I would do is I would go to, there's a lot of back office operations and sit in or actually time it.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, to open up account, I just sat down and
did it.
timed it.
Yeah.
I sat behind
Yeah.
new accounts, timed each section, how many softwares they were going into. I didn't have to know.
It tells you
anything
everything
else.
you need to know.
And so by the time it was like, okay, 15 minutes was allocated to this customer. And I found back then, oh my God, they had to put in a customer's address, I think I heard systems years ago, 4 different times because in the banking world, as you add on, you have, new account disclosures, but then you have systems put in your core. Then you may have a different system that prints out the documents for them to sign, and then you have to scan later, and then you got to issue debit cards. Well, that's a different provider.
Yeah.
And then you got to set them up from line. That's a different provider. So it was like, well, if you got to input that customer's address 4 different times, what does that mean? 4 times for errors.
Yes.
And especially if your employee is in front of a customer at that time.
That's additional time they have to sit there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
experience is starting to go
And
down.
if they're trying to have a conversation with at the same time, then more areas for screw up too. So it was like, oh my good, eye-opening. You don't have to know. Go back there and sit and just watch everything and log it, and then you can tell.
That's right. I mean, I've seen it, and I know you've implemented this kind of thing over and over as you guys have grown, and you always learn things about your business. You always end up saving money or making money.
I mean, one little thing that I do, and I don't know another bank CEO that does this. Anytime we lose $1 on a debit card transaction, a customer disputes it, says, I didn't authorize this. And it may be $30. And we have to eat it. I want to know why. Not because it's $30 and my employee's not capable of making that judgment call to just charge off the $30 that we have a regulation. You can see the patterns and like, oh my goodness, because of this regulation, we're stopping this. Well, what's consideration? So you've got to know those things.
It's pointing to some root problem.
Yeah. And even though it may be $30, by the time you see 50 of them, and then you wanted to expand, maybe that stops you in expanding that type of clientele. If it's all separated for this customer base or all hitting this type of fraud, and there's nothing you can do about it because of, the laws that are in place, this and that.
Yep.
Maybe that's not an avenue we want to go down or expand in.
That's right.
So those little things make a huge difference.
Yep.
And so I make sure when my employee, sends me that to approve the charter, it's like, listen, I'm not seconding your work. This is what keeps me close to the vest of knowing those, disputes and resolutions and card networks, because a lot of it isn't necessarily, it could be a policy of that vendor that we dealt with, not a regulation.
Right.
So if their policy is, no, anything under this threshold, we don't dispute, you have to eat. Well, then, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to use them next time, or I'm going to negotiate a better contract.
Yeah.
So you got to know all those little things.
Yeah.
Even though you may think it's beneath you, they can add up tremendously.
I mean, in that one effort, you just described probably 4 to 6 things that are now benefiting the bank, from a cost-effective employee morale, regulatory, fraud, all these different check boxes you've checked in terms of expanding and growing in that one service, being better for your customer.
They never even see that, like that side of the fraud where it's, it's not talked about. And there's so much fraud that is never even, that is, so little, but is the average consumer that is conducting it.
Sure.
And they just rationalize that it's okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I think we've kind of, exhausted that topic. For the most part, I think we've made our point.
Retail, you ready to go?
We made our point. Retail is
processes,
systems.
Yeah. Systems.
I think that's what they need to focus on. And I just say one more thing that, the motivation to focus on it, if you haven't already seen that there's a lot of benefit that comes from it, is that it will, this next cycle of growth that you go through, if you continue pushing through that momentum, bringing on all your new customers and expanding into a new location or whatever, bringing in different product lines, whatever it may be, is going to be so much more smooth.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to continue building that snowball of momentum. Whereas if you don't look at your systems, at least to some degree, it's going to be a rocky road of expanding.
Correct.
So there we go.
Great.